Hi, welcome to GTV3 and Local Music Monday on Government Television Channel 3, where we try to focus on some local musicians in and around the Lexington-Fayette County area and expose some of our musicians and some of our great talent that we have in this area to the viewers who may not be able to get out and visit nightclubs and sort of thing where you can see the local talent. So we try to bring that to you. So today we have a very special guest, John Hatfield of the John Hatfield Band. Welcome, John.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
All right. Thanks. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing in music. How did you get started in music?
I'm from Pikeville originally, so from Eastern Kentucky. So I think, as far as playing guitar, my older brother played guitar, and so I think initially when I was probably 10 or 11, I saw him playing guitar, and that was like, I kind of want to emulate that. We always had a piano in the house growing up. My parents, although they don't really play instruments, they always really loved just music in general. So they would always. My dad was a big Motown fan, and so he'd always be playing Motown music. My mom was a big Beach Boys fan, and I remember listening to Dolly Parton when we drove to school every morning. That was one of her favorites. So I think we had instruments. They got us instruments. They encouraged us to play. My brothers and I were involved in band and things like that, like the high school, or actually elementary school and middle school, and then high school. So they encouraged it. So
Cool. So Motown music in Pikeville, you probably had a hard time buying music in the record store back there.
Yeah, and my dad's they're from West Virginia, so it's kind of interesting.
So who were your early influences? Who did you start listening to when you first started buying CDs and records?
Let's see. Early on, I think I just would listen to what my brothers listened to. Beatles stuff. My older brother was a big Beatles, Stones, Rolling Stones fan. And then when I got into middle school, I went through a Hendrix, Joplin phase, maybe a little Led Zeppelin. That was so. And then when I really started playing a lot of guitar, I wanted to emulate Clapton, kind of blues stuff. So I really enjoyed that. So I went through phases, and then in high school, when I was even in college, it was the grunge phase. So for a while, it's kind of like I wanted to write that way, write songs that were like Pearl Jam songs or things like that. So it took me a while to figure out. I sort of, as I went through college, somehow just, I think out of convenience, attached myself to an acoustic guitar, and so then decided I would primarily play acoustic, and so all the sounds that I would come up with, all the songs I would come with, kind of came through that. So it didn't obviously end up being any kind of hard rock song. It would always be sort of something where the lyrics were a focus of whatever the song was. So
I was kind of curious about that because I've listened to your latest CD, Layers of Flash, which we'll hear some maybe later on, because you were talking about the rock and roll, the Hendrix and all that, and the electric guitars and things, and that really is a little bit different than what you're recording today. So tell me about the recording process or the writing process particularly. When you sit down and you want to write a song, what comes first? You get a melody in your head, you get a word, a phrase. How does that work?
Most of the time, I would say that like the average thing that happens is I'm noodling around on guitar, I'm playing, just having fun, I'm playing, and I come up with a melody out of nonsense. It just pops in my head, and I play around with it. I'm sure it's really annoying to listen to, so I don't really do that around people. And I'll play, and I'll just I usually have a whole song sort of charted out in my head before I have any lyrics to it, because what I found was in the past if I was to write lyrics and then try to fit them into a song, it just didn't really work as well for me, at least. Some people can do that, but I can't really do that. So what I have sort of, and I've had so many, I've started recording them on my phone so I wouldn't forget them, so I could go back, and then I would just because that's the cerebral part where I'm kind of trying to think about, well, what does that song feel like? What does it make me think of? And then we go from there. Sometimes I have an idea for a song, content-wise, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a song about this particular situation or person or whatever. But most of the time, I'm looking for that word or phrase that pops in my head that sort of I can deduce what the song is. So it's kind of like a clue where, because it fits with a part of the nonsense that I'm coming out with the melody, and I can go from there, and then I get an idea. Okay, so sometimes it just takes a word, and then you can start writing, and then sometimes that just turns out to be garbage, right? So
Hey, you got to try something.
sure.
So you play locally with the John Hatfield Band, correct?
Correct.
And tell me a little bit about the band. Then let's hear a song after that. Let's just
Okay,
tell me
sure.
about the band.
There's four of us. There's a drummer, a bass player, electric guitar, and then me with acoustic guitar. So, primarily we play at Natasha's, we play at Al's, places like that. So, and it's interesting because it's sort of what I'm going to play for this morning is it's acoustic, and it's probably closer to how the song started. But when you get with the band, things change, and I always like that too. So some people like this sort of stripped down version, and I love doing that. But then also, part of being a musician is it's just fun to work with other people, and so a lot of these songs, when I take them to the band, I take them, specifically my brother, he's kind of my brother, my drummer, Ryan McQuarrie. We work out rhythm issues because when I'm playing by myself, I do a lot more. So I got to kind of back off and sort of let him have a chance to add some rhythm to it. So
Cool. So what are we going to hear this morning?
this song is a song on the album called Spring Again. And I guess if I was to sum it up, it's a song where I wrote it, and we're getting ready to get into the season. During the winter season, we're in fall, but when the days are short and dark, and that in that particular time, it's kind of, just kind of humdrum time of the year, and that was the inspiration initially, and then I started thinking about how life gets like that, and it's always those of us that have somebody or some people that sort of can guide us out of that darkness or that gloom. We're really lucky. So it's sort of about that person that can make it spring again, and
Cool.
that's the idea.
Well, John Hatfield Unplugged. Let's hear it.
All right. Oh, my worn, wintered soul, paper thin on my skin, and bones, leafless branches in night. Oh, how I miss the sun's sunlight when I hold your hand, hold your hand, hold your hand. It's spring again. Monday in, Monday out, cold concrete through this puddled town. Drive the line, mindless time. I need a spontaneous death or life. But when I hold your hand, hold your hand, hold your hand, it's spring. I'm a ghost, the only one at the show. leave my part in motion without soul. When I hold your hand, hold your hand, hold your hand, it's spring again.
Awesome.
it.
Awesome. Awesome song. That's on the new CD, Layers of Flash.
It is, and yeah.
And where does the title Layers of Flash come from?
There's a song on there called Layers of Flash.
Right.
And that song in particular is about the idea of these pictures that we have of the past and how, because I was looking at a really bad family photo, I mean really, really bad, and with where the picture was taken at a wrong moment and nobody was smiling. We were all just kind of standing there. We kind of looked like we just hated the moment. So I started thinking about pictures and how they capture these specific moments, some happy, some not so happy, and how the question of whether those layers of flash actually represent like who we are, that kind of thing. So.
Cool.
Mostly I just wanted to use that photo as some sort of motivation because I thought it was really funny.
That's cool. Yeah. So yeah, you're a professional musician. You're putting out CDs.
Sure.
And so what's it like to be a professional musician in Lexington, Fayette County? What are the challenges and what are the advantages?
Well, being a smaller city, there's, smaller in comparison to other places. But being a city, there's places to play for sure. What I run into is it's actually pretty easy for me if I was me and maybe a percussionist and we were to go and find a gig, just the two of us. And I think that's really fairly easy to find in Lexington if you want to you include cover songs and things like that, and it's just fine. And then as a band, at least for me, I think it depends on the kind of music you play. Sort of these smaller, medium venues, there's I don't know. I guess I've found there's not a ton, so I'm a little bit limited in that way as far as like what seems to be a place where people would go and want to listen to original music. That seems to be a limit sometimes. So you kind of got to come up with maybe a certain percentage of songs that people would know, and then a certain percentage of your stuff. So you kind of read the audience, and so certain venues allow for singer, songwriter people to come in, and people come and they want to hear that. But I think other places may have, I don't know. Certainly, if you go to a place like Nashville, you would have it's just sort of flooded. The market's flooded with those places, but it doesn't seem that there's a lot of those here, unless I'm sort of blind to what I mean. There's some things I'm unaware of. So
I would say you're probably aware. Now, do you do all your mixing in your own studio at your home?
Yes, it's a combination. My drummer Ryan and I, we kind of combine. We decided we'd combine all of our equipment that we've collected over the years, and then go in together and buy some more recording equipment and microphones. And so we with the idea actually that we would use that to help other people. And so when we're not doing my stuff, our stuff, we're trying to find people that we could sort of help, and maybe because I enjoy potentially helping someone produce a song just as much as what I do, my own stuff. So I think that's sort of a goal of ours as well, not just to keep playing music, but also to sort of expand and try to use that to help other people.
Cool. Well, can we hear one more song before we have to leave?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. What are we gonna hear now?
This one actually, there's two albums from John Hatfield Band. This one's there's a previous one,
right? Okay.
And so this one's from the previous one.
Okay, cool.
And I didn't bring that with me. Sorry about that.
We'll
this
find it
called,
is it on iTunes?
It's on, yeah. So they're all
cool.
on iTunes. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
So
download them.
Curtain Call is the name of this one.
Cool.
And this is kind of about the idea that part of the reason things are meaningful is that they don't last forever, and so that's sort of a necessary quality, right?
Perfect.
So. trouble with the never-ending story is that forever, it's kind of boring. Well, all things made new usually means something. It had to end. Well, taste comes and goes, and change is good for the soul, whether a laugh or cry. It feels nice to let it go. Bitter is sweet, warm and cold. It's the curtain call that makes us glad we saw the show. Well, Mr. Adams said it best. We're better and better off living like fireworks. 'Cause beautiful is beautiful because it doesn't stay too long. But change is good for the soul, and taste comes and goes. But whether a laugh or cry, well, it feels nice to let it go. Bitter is sweet, warm and cold. It's the curtain call that makes us glad we saw the show. Get on with the show. Whether a laugh or cry, yeah, it feels nice to let it go.
Awesome again, man. Awesome again. Well, John, thanks for stopping by to Local Music Monday on GTV3. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
You certainly like John Hatfield Band. Check out John Hatfield Band on iTunes. Download his CDs. And John, thanks again. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day, everybody.